Hello, my friend. You made it. Tonight, before the story begins, let's begin with you. Not your thoughts, not your plans, just the quiet part of you that's tired in a way words don't quite hold. Let that part sit down now. No one's asking anything of you. You don't have to be okay. You don't have to explain. Close your eyes if that feels safe. Let your shoulders fall, not because you're supposed to, but because they're ready. Feel your hands, uncurl them. Feel your jaw, let it go slack. Feel your chest rise and fall. Not on command, just on its own. Now, a breath in, slow, low, and a breath out, longer, looser, softer. Again, inhale presence, exhale pretending. Inhale now, exhale everything else. You are not a problem to solve. You are not late. You are not too much. You are not too far gone. You are here, and here is enough. So let your body land. Let your spine remember what it feels like to be still without performing. Let the quiet around you be something you don't have to fill. Let the breath come without having to deserve it. The story will come soon. It's not in a hurry. You don't need to meet it with your best self, just your softest one. So if you're ready, or even if you're not, we'll begin. No rush. Just stay. Some truths don't arrive with thunder. They don't knock. They don't burst in like revelations. They just settle, like dusk, like that faint ache behind your ribs you didn't notice all day until you finally sat still. And when you do, when the room gets quiet, when no one is asking anything of you, that's when the truth shows up. Soft, unassuming, patient. Tonight, it's this. You are allowed to start again. Even here, even now. Even if you're still holding pieces you haven't figured out how to name. Maybe the life you've lived so far wasn't false, just incomplete. Maybe you've spent years being fine for the sake of keeping peace, being loved, being good. But what if being good isn't the same as being whole? What if wholeness requires you to stop running the script and start listening to your own voice again, the quiet one? The one that doesn't care about applause, the one that just wants peace, not performance. So let's pause here, not to fix, not to figure it all out, just to notice, to lay it all down for a moment and ask gently, what if I lived more honestly, more fully, more deeply? Not for anyone else, just for me. Let's begin. It doesn't hit like a thunderclap. No unraveling, no dramatic bottoming out. Just a pause. Like catching your reflection in a window you weren't expecting, and not recognizing the person looking back. You blink once, twice, and the thought comes, when did I start living like this? Not badly, not loudly, just slightly off. Like your life is a size too tight, but you've worn it so long, you've forgotten what comfort felt like. At first, it's just small things. The smile you put on before walking into rooms. The tone you use with certain people. Lighter, airier, more agreeable. The way you reach for neutral words instead of the ones that feel like home in your mouth. You've become fluent in making others comfortable. A master of smoothing tension, of softening truths until they no longer feel like yours. And you tell yourself, this is just being kind. This is being easy to love. But late at night, when no one's watching, you feel it. That strange hollowness. Not sadness, not exactly, but a kind of spiritual jet lag. Like your soul has arrived late to a life you've been performing on autopilot. You think about the version of you who used to move without calculating how it looked. The one who didn't flinch before speaking. The one who wore ridiculous outfits just because she liked them. The one who told stories with too much detail and too much heart. You loved her. But somewhere between being praised for being easygoing and being punished for too much, you started leaving pieces of her behind. You don't even remember where. You just know you've been tired in a way that rest doesn't fix. It's not your schedule. It's not your body. It's the weight of pretending, of choosing comfort for others over truth for yourself so many times that it became your default setting. You smile when you don't mean it. You say, it's fine when it's not. You go along with plans that make you feel smaller just to keep things smooth. And no one notices, not because they don't care, but because you trained them not to. You trained the world to love your highlight reel, and now you're exhausted from never letting them see the blooper cuts. But here's the thing, this moment, this soft, aching realization, it's not a crisis. It's not a failure. It's not a breakdown. It's a homecoming. A return to the question you stopped asking because the answers got buried under shoulds and have-tos and be polite. The question is simple but terrifying. What if I stopped performing? Not forever, not dramatically, just here, now, in this room, in this breath. What if I told the truth when it was inconvenient? What if I laughed too loud again? What if I took up the space I always shrink in? What if I showed up without the script? You won't get it perfect. No one does. But that ache inside you, it's not there to punish. It's trying to point you home to the version of you who never needed to be edited to be enough. She's still there, a little dusty, a little quieter, but she's waiting. And tonight might be the first time in a long time you get still enough to hear her whisper back, "I've missed you." You don't notice it at first. It hides in your timing. The way you pause half a second too long before saying something real. The way you bite your tongue after a joke that felt too honest. The way you almost tell someone how tired you are and then smile instead. It's not fear exactly. It's something subtler. Like the body remembering that once, when you showed too much, someone flinched. So you adjust. You soften your edges. You round your truths. You learn how to read a room in half a glance. And people like you for it. They call you thoughtful, low maintenance, chill. They don't know you rehearse your goodbyes in the bathroom mirror, so your voice won't crack when it matters. They don't know you swallow your hurt with water and a polite nod. They don't know how many times you've rewritten a message so it sounds nicer, even when your heart was breaking. You do it quietly, like folding a note and slipping it into your back pocket every day. And over time, you become someone no one really knows. Not because you're hiding, but because you've spent years trying to be digestible. And the ache, it builds. Not in big cinematic moments, but in the mundane. Like when someone asks, "Where do you want to eat?" And you say, "Anywhere." Because the truth is you've forgotten what you like. Or when you scroll through photos and realize you can't remember the last time your smile wasn't for show. Or when a song plays and something in your chest tugs so hard, you have to steady yourself against the counter. It's not about the song. It's about the part of you it woke up. The part that's been living under layers of almosts. Almost rested. Almost loved. Almost honest. Almost home. You didn't mean to live like this. You were just trying to keep the peace, to not take up too much space, to be good. But being good was never the same as being whole. And now the ache won't be quiet. It whispers while you rinse dishes. It knocks when you're getting dressed. It lingers in the mirror. Behind your eyes, not to shame you, not to undo you, but to remind you this isn't how it's supposed to feel. Life wasn't meant to be tolerable, it was meant to be yours. So you stop. Not everything, just the pretending, just the smiling when you want to cry, just the minimizing when you need, just the bending when you're already breaking. And it's awkward, and small, and unremarkable, but it's real. And in that realness, something shifts. Not dramatically, not loudly, but like breath returning to a body that forgot how to inhale. You don't have to declare anything. You don't have to fix the whole thing in one night. You just have to listen when the ache says you were meant to belong, not just be tolerated. And maybe that's where the becoming begins. Not in some bold reinvention, but in the simple, trembling choice to say, I want more than almost. They said it like it was a gift. You're so easy to love. And maybe it was in the beginning. It felt like safety, like being chosen, like all your quiet efforts to stay agreeable had finally paid off. You said yes before anyone asked, laughed at the right moments, made sure no one ever had to sit in discomfort around you. You were warm, predictable, a soft place to land. But over time, the praise began to sting. Not loudly, not even in words. Just this strange sensation in your chest, like your ribs were pressing in on something you hadn't let breathe in a while. You couldn't name it, only that you felt less like a person and more like a pillow, held when needed, discarded when not. You had taught everyone how to love the version of you who never asked for anything. So when the real you started to whisper, I'm tired, I don't want to do this anymore, there was no one there to hear it. Not out of malice, but because you had trained the world to believe you had no edges. And now, even when you try to say no, your voice shakes like it's speaking a foreign language. You start noticing things. How you always sit closest to the door. How your fingers pick at themselves when someone asks if you're okay. How you hold your breath whenever someone pauses too long after you speak, as if preparing for rejection. You've made yourself so easy to love, you've become hard to see, and that hurts in a way no one warns you about. You think back. Maybe it started with your mother's silence when you cried too loud. Maybe it started with the boy in school who called you intense, like it was a flaw. Maybe it didn't start anywhere big. Maybe it was 100 tiny choices to be less complicated, less emotional, less yourself, so no one would leave. And they didn't, not physically, but they stayed for the version of you that didn't exist. And now you live in the shadow of your own performance, unsure if anyone has ever truly loved you or just the script you rehearsed so well. Some days you want to scream, but the words feel stuck under layers of social grace and perfectly timed smiles. So instead, you go quiet again, not because you want to, but because silence feels safer than disappointing someone with your too muchness. Still, there's a question lingering at the edge of your body, beneath your skin. In that place, your hands hover over when you cry. What would happen if I wasn't easy? What if I said the wrong thing and didn't correct it? What if I needed too much one day and let them see it? What if I stopped making myself smaller so everyone else could breathe easier? Would they stay? Would I? You don't have the answer, but maybe, just maybe, the next time someone says, "You're so easy to love," you won't smile. You won't thank them. You'll just pause and feel in your chest whether the love they're offering has room for the version of you haven't shown them yet. It doesn't feel brave. It just feels strange, like wearing someone else's coat and realizing it fits better than your own. Maybe it happens when you're late, and instead of writing a paragraph of apologies, you say, "Thanks for your patience." And that's it. No story, no guilt offering, no soft voice trying to patch up a wound that didn't bleed. You hit send, and something in your body freezes, waiting for backlash that never comes. You've been wired that way, taught to preempt disappointment with over-explaining, taught to cover your existence in disclaimers. And when you don't, when you just let yourself arrive without apologizing for the space you take, it rattles something loose. Later, you catch yourself doing it again, in line at the store, when someone brushes past you, and your mouth moves to say sorry for simply being in the way. But this time, you stop mid-word, not because you're angry, but because you realize you didn't do anything wrong. And that pause feels louder than any apology you've ever spoken. Your body doesn't know what to do with this much neutrality. No guilt, no shame, just existing. You carry that sensation home. It buzzes under your skin, unfamiliar, like light returning to a hallway you've kept closed for years. You sit on the edge of your bed and think about how many hours of your life have been spent trying to soften your presence. You think of all the sorries that weren't really sorry. Sorry, I'm so emotional. Sorry, this is a lot. Sorry, I couldn't pretend better today. You remember saying, "I'm fine," when your throat was tight with the weight of being polite. You remember laughing when something hurt. And for what? So people wouldn't feel too close to your edges? So you could keep the illusion that you were low maintenance? Even when you were drowning in needs you didn't know how to name, you look at your hands, still, open, like they're waiting for instructions that no longer apply. And somewhere beneath your ribs, there's this low thrum, not confidence, not yet, just the beginning of not asking for permission to be. You exhale longer than usual, and it doesn't feel like a revolution. It feels like coming back into your own body after years of outsourcing comfort. You don't know what comes next. You don't know how to show up without tidying yourself first. But maybe next time, when someone says, "You're different lately," you won't scramble to explain. You'll just nod and let the silence answer for you. It doesn't start with a breakdown. It starts with a craving, small, almost imperceptible, but it finds you. Like the way your hand lingers a second too long on a dusty tin of cocoa powder at the back of the cupboard, the kind you used to drink when you still believed that comfort was allowed without occasion. You weren't looking for it. You just paused. And in that pause, something old blinked awake inside you. Not a hunger, not quite, more like a remembering of what it felt like to be soft, to be held, to be allowed to want something without first weighing whether you deserve it. It catches you off guard, like walking past a bakery and almost crying at the smell of cinnamon, or seeing a dog stick its head out of a car window and feeling a laugh get caught in your throat. Not because it's funny, but because it's pure. And you haven't touched anything pure in weeks. That's when it starts. Not with a declaration, not with a "I need," just the ache of noticing you've gone too long without tenderness. Not just from others, from yourself. You've been so busy being strong, you forgot that your body wasn't designed to be a fortress. You don't realize how long you've been bracing until the first moment you don't. Like when you sit down and your shoulders drop an inch lower than usual, and you don't immediately jump up to do something useful. It feels foreign, like you're borrowing stillness instead of owning it. And the thoughts come in quietly. I miss something. I want something. I need. But you stop there because finishing that sentence feels dangerous. Like once you name the need, you'll have to do something about it, and you're not ready yet. So you wash the dishes, fold the towel a little too neatly, double check the stove even though you haven't cooked. But your body, it knows. It knows you haven't been touched in a way that felt real in longer than you care to admit. It knows you've forgotten the last time you rested without guilt pressing on your chest like a stone. It knows, even if you're not ready to. And that knowing starts to pulse in small, disruptive ways. You put on a playlist from 3 summers ago, and it ruins you. Not because it reminds you of someone, but because it reminds you of how alive you used to feel when no one was watching. You skip dinner, and your stomach doesn't growl, it sulks. You say, "I'm fine," and feel a flash of heat crawl up your neck because even you don't believe it anymore. So one night, maybe tonight, you sit. Not because it's a ritual, not because you're doing the work, just because you don't want to lie to yourself for 5 more minutes. And in that stillness, you feel it rise again. A sentence, soft, incomplete. "I need." You don't finish it, not out loud, not even in your head, but you close your eyes and let the sentence live there, undone, unapologized for, and somehow that's enough for now. You don't even notice it at first, the shame. It doesn't knock, it seeps, like warmth leaving a room right after someone says, "You should be grateful." And you nod, because of course they're right. You have things, good things, things people would trade for, a job that pays the bills, someone who texts back, weekends that aren't lonely, just quiet. So why? Why does your chest tighten every time you say, "I'm lucky"? Why do your hands go cold when someone calls you content? You try to shake it off. You call it a mood. You light a candle, drink tea, journal your way back to appreciation. But still, something tugs, soft, persistent, like the way your stomach twists when a song comes on, and for no reason at all, your eyes burn. It's not the lyrics. It's the memory of being more alive than this, more open, less managed. You used to be someone who laughed too loudly in restaurants, who kissed with both hands, who wanted things without apology. And now, you hesitate before every joy, as if checking if you've earned it. You keep your desires small, tidy, digestible, like asking for more might make you less worthy of what you already have. You tell yourself to be thankful, to stop being dramatic. And on the outside, you do well. You're agreeable, balanced, grateful. But inside, you carry a quiet, humming guilt that you can't seem to shake. A guilt that wraps itself around your bones every time you let yourself want something deeper. Not money, not fame, just more warmth. More presence, more mornings where you don't have to fake enthusiasm for your own life. You think back to conversations where you nodded when you wanted to scream. Nights you laid next to someone and felt more alone than when the bed was empty. And the worst part? You told yourself that was love. That was adulthood. That was what it meant to grow up, to settle, to adjust, to be realistic. But there's a part of you, small, maybe bruised, but still breathing, that doesn't buy it. She tugs at your sleeve when you pass strangers who look unburdened. She cries at commercials you pretend not to watch. She lingers in the doorway when you turn out the lights, asking, "Is this really all?" And you want to scold her, tell her to be quiet, to be grateful, to behave. But tonight, you don't. You sit on the floor, knees drawn in, hands loose in your lap. You don't light the candle. You don't make a list of things you're thankful for. You just listen to that slow, steady ache in your chest and let it say, "I want more." Not as demand, not as rebellion, just as truth. And for once, you don't silence it. You don't shame it. You don't dress it up with logic. You just let it stay. And in the quiet that follows, something softens, not the ache, but the way you hold it. You used to believe that if you just got it right, the job, the relationship, the timing, you'd finally exhale, that your body would unclench, your chest would stop buzzing, your mind would go quiet for once. You wouldn't call it desperation. You called it ambition. You called it just trying to be better. But underneath, it was always longing. You thought the next thing would save you. The title, the clean apartment, the one person who would love you enough to make you feel real again. So you got to work. You built your life like scaffolding, a little shaky, but upright. And for a while, it looked good, even felt good. You got praise, you got picked, you got weekends full of plans and people and curated little joys. But still, there were moments when you'd be laughing and feel a flicker of distance between the sound and your chest. When you'd fall asleep beside someone and wonder what it would be like to feel known instead of held. When you buy the fancy olive oil and use it like a spell, as if richness on the tongue might translate to something deeper. But the ache didn't leave. It just got better at hiding. Until one day, you looked around at everything you had and felt adrift. Not broken, not ruined. just misaligned, like you'd been driving for hours toward a city someone else picked out for you. You tried more things: journals, supplements, vision boards, a silk eye mask you ordered at 2 a.m. because a stranger on the internet said it changed her life. But nothing held. And the grief in that, the grief of realizing effort doesn't always equal arrival, it cut deeper than disappointment. It felt like betrayal, because you did everything right. You were good. You were charming. You kept your side of the street clean. And still, your soul never unclenched. So you sit now, maybe not rock bottom, but somewhere softer, somewhere quieter. And the silence says, what if the thing that saves you isn't more? Not more love, not more structure, not even more healing. What if it's less armor, less proving, less pretending that contentment lives in the next version of yourself? Maybe the beginning isn't some momentous shift. Maybe it's a small undoing, an unfastening, a soft voice in the back of your mind saying, hey, you can stop running now. You don't turn toward it yet, not fully, but for the first time, you don't run faster. You just stand still. And that stillness, awkward, unfamiliar, starts to feel less like a failure and more like an answer. You don't remember the first time you left yourself behind. It didn't happen in a moment. Not some big betrayal. No slammed doors. No name scratched out in anger. Just slow. Like moving out of a house while pretending you still live there. You smiled. You performed. You floated above the days like a weather balloon, tethered to someone else's idea of who you should be. And you survived like that a long time. Well-liked, put together. The kind of person who sends thank you notes and always knows what to bring to a dinner party. But at night, when the last text was answered, the dishwasher hummed, the lights dimmed just so, you'd sit on the bathroom floor in that half shadow between routines and feel not sad, just missing. Like the ghost of yourself passed by every few nights and forgot to wave. You didn't cry. You weren't breaking down. You were just not home. And then one day, without any grand catalyst, you remembered something small. The way you used to write notes on the inside of library books and tuck them back like secrets. The way you'd hum in elevators and you thought no one could hear. You remembered how you once cried because the sky turned orange too fast one evening and you weren't done watching it. And for a moment, you missed that version of you, with an ache you couldn't place. Not because she had it all figured out, but because she felt things without flinching. You wanted that back. Not the mess, not the chaos, just the thread, the one that led to your own center. But coming home to yourself isn't like flipping on a light. It's more like pushing open a door that's been swollen shut from weather and time, and walking barefoot into dust. Nothing sparkles, nothing sings, but the floor still remembers your weight. The air still knows your breath. So you don't declare anything. You don't post about healing. You just choose one small moment to move a little closer. Maybe you wear the scarf that doesn't match anything, but makes you feel like your grandmother's kitchen. Maybe you laugh at your own joke, even when it falls flat. Maybe you leave the dishes just this once, and no one claps, no one notices, but you do. Somewhere beneath your ribs, something exhales. It's not relief, not yet, but it's something like, I'm still in here. And that, however quiet, is enough to keep going. Not forward, not upward, just inward. Slower than you thought it would be, but softer than you hoped. And tonight, that softness feels like the closest thing to truth you've touched in years. You've spent most of your life trying to be seen, but only in the ways you've rehearsed. Not too much, not too raw, just acceptable. You got good at it, at saying enough to seem open, but never so much that it made the room uncomfortable. You laughed at the right times, shared carefully edited versions of your pain, held eye contact like a pro. You were honest, technically, but never messy, never exposed, because somewhere along the way, you learned that being fully seen didn't always lead to closeness. Sometimes it led to silence, or pity, or the worst kind, polite discomfort. So you curated. You became fluent in just enoughness. You let people see the light, but never the wiring, never the hum of what you were really carrying. And now you're trying to stop, to undo the reflex, to show up with less polish, less translation, but it's terrifying. Not in a dramatic, heart-pounding way, more like being caught humming a love song you didn't realize was out loud. Like someone opening your notebook and reading the margins, not the main page. Your body tenses before you speak, even with people you trust, even when the moment is safe. Because being seen, really seen, feels like standing barefoot in a room you're not sure you're invited into. You say a thing, and immediately want to soften it, make it prettier, make it easier to digest. You feel the heat rise in your chest, that old instinct to say, "Just kidding, never mind, it's nothing." But it's not nothing. It never was. It's the part of you that's been waiting years to be looked at and not corrected, to be witnessed without being managed. You're scared that if you show up unfiltered, someone will leave. And maybe they will. Maybe they'll flinch, or change the subject, or look at you with that too polite smile that says, "I don't know what to do with this." And that will hurt. Of course it will. But maybe what hurts more is that for so long, you were the one who looked away first. You pre-rejected yourself. You rehearsed your own dismissal. You never gave people the chance to hold the real thing. And now, when you do, when you offer something jagged and honest and unrefined, your hands shake. Not from weakness, from unfamiliar freedom. So tonight, you don't polish the sentence. You don't tidy your face. You say it badly, awkwardly, honestly. And even if no one claps, even if no one echoes, you're still there, still breathing, still brave. And something in you, shaky, unsure, but true, knows this is what it means to stay. It's not that they didn't listen. They nodded. They made the right face. They even said, "That must be hard." And still, somehow, they didn't hear you. You felt it, the drop, the moment your words hit the surface and slid off. Like throwing a letter into a mailbox you're not sure still connects to anything. And you stood there, smiling politely, your fingers still holding the edge of the envelope, as if it might come back. It didn't, so you swallowed the rest, changed the subject, said, "Anyway, it's not a big deal," even though it kind of was. You've done this before, said something real, then watched it land wrong, or bounce, or break. So you started sanding your edges. You told your stories in safer ways. You left out the tremble in your voice, a part where your hands went cold, the silence after. You tried different versions, softer, smarter, more digestible. You rehearsed in your head before speaking. You rewrote the conversation after. You blamed yourself for the misunderstanding. Maybe you weren't clear enough. Maybe you were too intense. Maybe you should have waited for a better moment. But the truth is, some people just don't know how to meet you there. They don't mean harm. They're not cruel. They're just not equipped to hold what you carry. And that's what hurts the most, not the rejection, the emptiness, the way the room feels after you've spoken your truth and no one looks you in the eye. It makes you want to fold, to shrink, to say less next time. And maybe you do. Maybe you go quiet for a while, not out of bitterness, but out of preservation. Because being misunderstood isn't just frustrating, it's exhausting. Like speaking your native language in a place where no one recognizes the sound. Like dancing in a room where the music only plays inside your chest. But still, somewhere in you, a small voice keeps humming, keeps saying, "This matters," even if they don't get it. And tonight, you let that voice stay. You don't force the people around you to become fluent in your wounds, but you stop translating. You stop diluting. You stop apologizing for needing to be heard in your own language. And maybe no one echoes back. Maybe no one reaches across the silence, but you do. You reach for yourself, for your own damn hand. You sit in the quiet, the ache still humming, and whisper, "I meant every word. I still do." And that's enough to keep speaking. You don't want to beg for it. That's the thing. You want to be chosen, not because you tried hard enough, not because you said all the right things, but because someone looked at you and saw something they didn't want to look away from, even in your quiet, even in your plainness, even when you don't sparkle. But it's hard, isn't it? When most of your love stories began with performance, you knew how to play the part, how to be interesting, charming, emotionally convenient. You were so good at it, you didn't even notice when it stopped being a choice and started being survival. Because underneath it all, you didn't just want to be loved, you wanted to be kept. Not for your usefulness, not for your sweetness, but for your actual self. And that felt dangerous. So you adapted. You became the one who could read the room before you entered it, who could shrink or expand depending on who needed what, who knew when to be soft, when to be funny, when to be silent. And maybe they did choose you, but not really. They chose the performance, the version of you that smiled at the right time and said, "No worries, I understand," even when you didn't. And now you're tired, not just physically, soul tired, from all the bending, all the guessing, all the emotional costume changes you had to make just to be close to someone. You start wondering, what would it feel like to just exist? To sit across from someone and not feel the need to impress. To let the conversation go quiet without filling the space with laughter or comfort. To say, "This is who I am today," and not fear the door closing in response? You tell yourself you don't need anyone, but you do. Not in a desperate way, not in the way you used to, but in the way that makes you ache when you watch two people understand each other without needing translation. You want that, but you also want your dignity, your autonomy, your full breath. You want to be chosen without choreography. And that's the line you keep walking now. The line between craving closeness and refusing to perform for it anymore. Some days you stumble, you over-explain, you dim yourself down, you offer more than you want to give. Old habits don't die, they resist. But some days, on the good days, you stay still. You speak plainly. You feel deeply. You let them see your awkward, unfiltered center. And if they stay, it feels like the gentlest kind of miracle. Not fireworks, not swooning, just a quiet recognition. I don't need you to dazzle me. I just need you to stay. And even if they don't, even if they walk, you stay with yourself. You no longer abandon who you are, just to keep someone who didn't know how to hold you anyway. There comes a moment, not loud, not cinematic, when you realize you're done performing your value. Not because you've finally healed, not because someone convinced you you're enough, but because you're tired, bone tired, of trying to earn the right to take up space in your own life. You don't want to pitch yourself anymore. Not as a partner, not as a friend, not as someone worth keeping. You just want to be as you are, even when you're unsure, even when you're quiet, even when you bring nothing but your presence to the table. You spent years mistaking productivity for worth, being needed for being loved, being impressive for being safe. You became fluent in the language of utility. You apologized when you had no updates. You overcompensated when you didn't feel sparkly. You offered versions of yourself tailored to whoever was in front of you. And still, the emptiness followed because you were being chosen for the wrong reasons by people who didn't know the whole story. Not because they were cruel, but because you kept hiding the parts that felt too human to be celebrated. The awkwardness, the pause before you speak, the way you sometimes cry over cereal for reasons you can't name. But now you crave something else. Not applause, not recognition, not even love, not the kind that demands explanation. You want ease, not laziness, not giving up, just ease, the kind that lets your body unclench, your mind stop scripting, your breath move through your ribs without asking permission. And slowly, you stop chasing the gold star. You stop translating your presence into terms people can easily understand. You don't explain your stillness. You don't justify your softness. You start showing up not to prove anything, but to practice being real. And sometimes they won't get it. They'll want the old version, the sparkly one, the one who made things easier for everyone but herself. Let them miss her. She did her job. She got you here. But she's tired now, and you're learning how to stay without performing, how to speak without selling, how to be without apologizing. Not because you've stopped growing, but because you finally understand. You were never meant to be consumed. You were meant to be met. And anyone who needs proof of your worth before offering care, they're not your home. Let them go. Let yourself stay. And for the first time in a long time, rest. There's no grand opening, no speech, no soaring music, no defining moment where everything clicks into place. Sometimes, starting again just looks like standing at your sink for a few extra seconds, watching the water run and realizing you're still here. That's it. No lightning bolt, no announcement, just presence. That's what bravery looks like now. It's brushing your teeth without rushing, texting back without overthinking, looking in the mirror and not flinching at what greets you. It's quiet and awkward and occasionally boring, but there's something sacred about it, because you're not trying to prove anything. You're just trying not to abandon yourself before the day even begins. You speak a little slower. You leave the house in something comfortable. You let someone's disapproval pass through you like weather. You don't call yourself lazy for needing rest. You don't shame your tears for arriving at the wrong time. And no one claps. There's no gold star. But your body notices. Your hands stop clenching. Your jaw stops preparing for an argument. Your spine stops bracing for the moment you'll have to shrink. You eat something not because it's healthy, but because it feels kind. You say no in a tone that doesn't ask for forgiveness. You give yourself a quiet exit from the performance you didn't realize you were still trapped inside. And you do it without fanfare, without explaining, without turning it into a story to post. You just begin in the smallest way you can manage. And maybe that same night, you cry in the car, you spiral, you call someone twice who doesn't answer. It doesn't undo anything, because beginning again doesn't require consistency. Just return. You keep returning to the part of you that's still willing to believe that life doesn't have to hurt to be real. That you don't have to earn ease. That showing up softly is still showing up. And maybe the world won't notice, but you do. You notice that you didn't vanish, that you made one decision, any decision, to stay. That's the beginning, not the rebirth, just the refusal to disappear. There's a grief you carry quietly, not because it's shameful, but because no one warned you how much it would hurt to outgrow the version of yourself that got you through. You didn't become her out of vanity, or ego, or ambition. You became her because you were scared. You learned early that some feelings were too loud, some needs were too much, some truths made people shift in their seats. So you adapted. You became the easy one, the flexible one, the good sport. You laughed at jokes that stung. You apologized first, always. You smiled in group photos, even when you felt like furniture. And people loved her, that version of you, the chill, the low maintenance, the so supportive. But what they loved was who you became to avoid being left. Not the full you, not the one who needed too long to reply, or changed her mind, or asked to be held without having to explain why. And now you're starting to feel it, the shedding, the ache, like wearing a sweater 2 sizes too small in a room where no one notices you can't breathe. It's not a dramatic transformation. You don't cut your hair or leave the country. You just start saying less. Start laughing less at things that aren't funny. Start walking out of conversations that feel like negotiations for love. And little by little, you start grieving her. The girl who made herself convenient. The one who never said, "Actually, I'm not okay." The one who kept trying to be palatable so she wouldn't be left behind. You don't hate her. You don't blame her. You just don't want to be her anymore. Because now, you want more than being liked. You want to feel free in your own skin. You want to ask for something without rehearsing. You want to take up space without scanning the room for who you might be upsetting. You want to be known, not managed. And that means you'll have to disappoint some people. People who liked the version of you that made them comfortable. Let them miss her. Let her rest. She did her job. But you're not molding anymore. You're not shrinking. You're not twisting yourself into a softer shape just to keep the peace. You're not a lesson, not a symbol, not a transformation arc. You're a person. And today, that's enough. Even if no one claps, even if no one gets it, even if you're still learning how to believe it. It feels strange at first to rest without earning it, to be gentle without justifying why, to choose peace on a random Tuesday with dishes in the sink, a text you still haven't answered, and grief sitting in your chest like a quiet guest. You used to think peace had to be negotiated, that it came after the list was cleared, after the self-improvement, after you became a little less messy, a little more lovable. So you kept postponing it, thinking, maybe next week, when I get my life together. Maybe next month, when I stop spiraling. But peace isn't a reward. It's a practice. And for people like you, people who've spent a lifetime proving, pleasing, performing, peace feels like slowness you haven't yet earned. Because who are you to sit down when others are still sprinting? Who are you to exhale when there's still noise to clean up? But slowly, you begin to notice there is no trophy for suffering, no gold star for overextending, no applause for exhaustion. There is only your body, and whether you're still in it, whether you've fed it, listen to it, let it rest, and maybe one day you stop asking for permission to feel okay. You stop bargaining with your own nervous system. You stop translating peace into currency you must earn. You just choose it. Not because the world is quiet, but because you're tired of making war with yourself. You choose it with unwashed hair, with overdue emails, with tears you still haven't explained to anyone. You choose it in the middle of the mess, not after. And you realize peace isn't a polished room. It's a decision to stop running from yourself in whatever room you're already in. It's not about fixing every emotion. It's about not fighting every one of them. And when that starts to feel normal, when ease no longer feels like laziness, when breathing feels less like a luxury and more like a right, that's when you know you didn't earn peace, you remembered it. It was always yours. You just forgot you were allowed to touch it without apology. At some point, you stop looking over your shoulder to see who noticed. You stop wondering if they saw how much you've changed, how hard you're trying, how much it costs to stay soft in a world that keeps rewarding the sharp. You stop needing witnesses, not because you've hardened, not because you've given up, but because something in you finally believes you are real, even if no one claps. You are whole, even if no one understands how you got here. There was a time when being unseen felt unbearable, when you'd speak gently and hope someone would echo it back, when you'd share a tender part of your story and scan the room for approval. But now, you keep your eyes on your own hands. You learn to hold yourself like someone who matters. You build a home where no one else needs to knock to make it feel real. Because truth isn't louder when someone confirms it. It's steadier when you stop asking if it's enough. You still ache sometimes. You still crave being met. That sacred moment when someone really sees you. But the difference now? You don't contort to be visible. You don't twist your softness into something shinier. You don't light yourself on fire to be the warmth in someone else's cold room. You just stay as you are. And if someone sees you, really sees you, that's a gift, not a goal, because this life you're building, this slow, quiet, radical return to yourself, was never meant to be a performance. It was meant to be a sanctuary, and sanctuaries are rarely loud, rarely public, rarely praised in real time, but they hold. They hold, so do you. Not because someone clapped, not because you were chosen, but because you chose to stay true, even when no one was watching, even when no one came, even when it was just you and the quiet. You stayed, and that is everything. And now, you're here, still breathing, still enough. There's no more story to finish, no feeling to explain, no version of you that has to show up better than this one. The day is over. Let it be. Feel your body, not as a task to tend to, but as something that's already done enough. Your legs, let them sink into the mattress like roots into warm earth. They've carried you far today. You don't have to walk anymore, not even in your mind. Your back, let it soften, vertebra by vertebra, like a spine finally remembering it doesn't have to hold everything upright. Your hands, rest them open, uncurled, unguarded, like they no longer need to catch what was never yours to hold. Your shoulders, let them fall. A little more, then more again, until even your muscles forget what bracing felt like. Your jaw, release it. Loosen the place where words used to wait. Your eyes, soften. Even if they're already closed, let them rest more deeply in their sockets, like petals folding in for the night. There is nothing missing in this moment. No clock ticking behind your breath. No audience waiting for your next thought. So let yourself be held, not by someone else, but by the stillness you've been too tired to name. Let the silence wrap around you like a blanket. Let the darkness feel soft instead of sharp. Let the ache become distance. Let the memory fade without needing to be understood. Let the breath come, slow, gentle, unwatched. You are not waiting anymore. Not for sleep, not for peace, not for someone to say, "You've done enough." You already have. You are not striving. You are not fixing. You are not measuring your progress against anyone's timeline. You are resting. And if thoughts still come, let them pass. You don't have to fight them. You don't have to solve them. They're like clouds drifting through a sky that doesn't need to be clear to be calm. You don't need to earn this rest. You don't have to be ready for it. You just have to stop holding yourself up for a while. So breathe in and out. Let the breath carry you deeper into your body, deeper into the bed beneath you, deeper into the space inside yourself that never needed fixing, only quiet. This isn't escape. This is return to your own rhythm, to your own softness, to your own timing. Say it quietly inside if it feels true. I am here. I am safe. I am allowed to rest. Again, I am home. I am whole. I am letting go. Don't try to sleep. Let sleep come to you, like a cat curling up beside you without asking for anything. Don't try to finish the night. Just stay in it, one breath at a time. Your body knows what to do. It has always known. You are not broken. You are not behind. You are simply becoming softer. Soften your hands. Soften your back. Soften your breath. Let the stillness hold you now. Let the mattress take your weight. You don't need to carry yourself anymore. Let your thoughts dissolve, not erased, just no longer urgent. voices in your mind fade into hums you don't have to follow. Sleep is not something to reach. It is something to return to. It's already here. So let yourself go. Not away, but deeper. You are drifting now, held, unwatched, enough. Sleep well, not because you've earned it, but because you are already